Food. It's on everyone's mind. From the relatively mundane, what are we having for dinner tonight? To the more urgent, how am I going to feed my family this week? We all need to eat to live. Things have changed a lot over several generations as we've moved from participating in food production to not being involved at all, from grinding grains and milking cows to trips to the grocery store or ordering meal kits online. In the span of a few decades, we've gone from local food to global food. Fresh strawberries and avocados every day of the year in Canada. The globalization of our food system isn't bad on the surface. We have access to whatever we want whenever we want it, if we can afford it. If a crop fails in one part of the world, we get it from somewhere else, and you might not even notice the difference. Maybe the price goes up or down a little bit. But when we look more closely at these systems, and when bigger disturbances occur, we see how fragile global food networks are. But this talk isn't just about the problems of a global food system. It is about the solutions we can find in growing food gardens. Do you remember the last time you ate something fresh from a garden? Maybe it was a sun-ripened tomato, or some blueberries picked straight from the bush. The flavors burst in your mouth, juice running down your chin or staining your fingertips. That empowering pleasure of feeding yourself directly from the earth. For some of you, it might be difficult to remember when that was, if ever. Most of us don't spend time in gardens, let alone eating from them. What if I told you that here on Vancouver Island, we only produce 10% of our food, importing 90%. And as for the rest of the country, we import half of the vegetables and 3/4 of the fruit. We rely heavily on our southern neighbors, the United States and Mexico, who have warmer climates and cheaper labor. This probably doesn't come as a surprise. Like I mentioned earlier, most days, this global food system works. And unless an unprecedented storm washes out the highways, or there are back-to-back extreme weather events and there is inflation, we don't think too much about it. But we are starting to think more about it these days, aren't we? I've been growing food for over a decade, and I have seen the magic that happens when you plant seeds, tend your garden, harvest the produce, and share with your friends and family. From balconies to back and front yards, schools, restaurants, and community gardens, I have the privilege of helping people connect to their food system as an educator and edible landscaper. You might be saying to yourself, what did she say? Edible landscaper? Edible landscaping, or foodscaping, is a type of horticulture that focuses primarily on building food gardens. So if we're planting trees and shrubs, the varieties we plant produce food, like apples or hazelnuts. My company has been doing this work in and around Victoria for almost 15 years. We build raised veggie beds, plant fruit trees, build greenhouses, and we do not mow lawns. In fact, we don't even own a lawnmower. In most cases, if you have a lawn, we will build a garden right on top of it. Our clients see the value of local food, and they are thrilled when we bring abundant homegrown produce into their lives. Now, for the past 4 years, I've been working with Royal Roads University, helping to turn 2 acres of lawn into a thriving small-scale farm. In that first season, my team and a handful of volunteers transformed a lawn into a food garden in 5 hours. We jokingly called it the 5-hour farm. We built the garden right on top of the grass, with no digging or tilling involved, just some large rolls of cardboard laid out with manure and compost on top. This is a technique called no-dig gardening, or sheet mulching, and it worked so well that we were harvesting our first crop of collard greens within a month. Since then, we continue to plant, tend, harvest, and share the abundance with others. Volunteers, students, and community members come to the farm and learn about growing food. And working with others in the garden is one of my most favorite things to do. people never fail to light up, and they often say the most profound things. I've had people tell me that the work they're doing in the garden is some of the most meaningful work that they have ever done. And that work could be flipping the compost or spreading manure, but something significant is happening for them. Tending the garden tends to part of themselves they didn't know was missing. One time, I was working in my daughter's school garden with her grade 2 class. The kids were planting radishes and peas, running around exploring. One little boy came up to me, his hands filled with herbs, looking up at me with excitement. "Teacher, smell this! It smells like comfort." I had to agree with him. The smell of oregano reminded me of homemade soup and being taken care of by my mom. Tending the garden tends to us. These experiences aren't trivial. They are powerful, transformational moments, and they grow in food gardens. Research on growing food shows the benefits to be far-reaching. Not only are there important health benefits, like the fresh air and exercise, eating vitamin-rich produce, but also the stress-reducing aspects, connecting with nature, the feeling of security you get from supplementing some of your own food. Not to mention the bragging rights you gain from growing almost anything. Other research shows that the produce in our grocery stores is rapidly losing its nutritional value. And this is due to many factors, from large-scale agriculture practices like tilling and chemical fertilizers, to the many kilometers it takes to bring food into our country. And this might be noticeable to you when you eat this imported food. We can taste it. Those tomatoes, although perfectly round and shiny red, are flavorless. The carrots, although bright orange and straight, are bland compared to homegrown ones. Global produce is bred for looks and transport, not flavor and nutrition. And for folks who have never tried the difference between imported and homegrown food, they might just think that this is the way it tastes, and this is leading to less produce being bought and eaten. I had a student volunteer with me on the farm one day, and as we were finishing our session, I was packing up some produce for him to take home. I filled a bag of apples and garlic, started on a bag of the fresh tomatoes we had just been harvesting. "Oh no, I don't like tomatoes," he said to me. As I was putting them back, it occurred to me maybe he had never tried a homegrown tomato before. So I asked him. He shook his head no. I gave him one. And as he took it and put it in his mouth and the juices exploded, the look on his face was amazement. "Solara, you just blew my mind." Blowing his mind broke my heart. How far have we gone from the simple pleasures of life? The taste of a fresh tomato. We don't all need to grow all of our own food, but more of us could grow some of it. And we should all support and encourage local food growing. We might actually depend on it. So whether it's buying direct from farmers, volunteering at your kids' school garden, or turning our underutilized spaces into edible landscapes, our communities will greatly benefit from more local food. That pot of herbs on your balcony, or the mind-blowing taste of a homegrown tomato, can bring comfort into your lives and nutrition into your bodies, and a little more security into our neighborhoods. So, let's get back into the garden, and you might find something you didn't know you were missing. Thank you.